These videos are offered on a pay-what-you-like basis. You can pay for the use of the videos at my website. There is a link to my website in the info box. The address is www.freelance-teacher.com/videos.htm, or you can just use the link in the info box. By the way, I also offer tutoring via Skype, and you can find more information about that Skype tutoring service at my website. Thanks. All right, well, to do a brief start then, what would be the name of this?
Ketone.
Good.
Good reading.
And how about this?
Ethanol or acetal.
What was that other name?
Acetal.
Now, acetal, remember, is something different. That's when you're connected to two oxygens. You're on the right track there.
Oh, I thought acid meant two carbons.
That's right. You just have the suffix not quite right here. The full name here, you'll remember, is acetaldehyde.
Oh. Okay, I'll stick to the other kind of nomenclature.
Yeah, I think you would get credit for this. However, you're probably going to be expected to know this common name. In fact,
we actually, well, someone in office hours asked him,
right.
And he said, like, look at the past midterms and you'll see it. And in the past midterms, it says provide nomenclature of IUPAC or common for the following molecules. So as long as we know, like, the IUPAC, I think.
Right. Well, but the flip side of that is that the instructor might use the common names in some of his problems.
Some of these, yeah.
In real life, no one ever calls this ethanol. They always call it acetaldehyde. So it really is good to know this common name. It comes up so much.
And in other midterms, he also just gave us the common name and then had to
Right.
write them.
Okay. There's some common names that come up so much that we should know them. So it would be logical to call this acetal, but we're already using that. Remember, we're already using that for compounds that look like this after a category 1 nucleophilic attack on an aldehyde. So, I'm sorry, after a category 2. Yeah, category 2 attack on a aldehyde. So we can't call it acetal. They came up with acetaldehyde. All right, as we discussed, acet always means 2 carbons except for acetone. So here we have a 2-carbon aldehyde. All right, and the name for this would be?
Formaldehyde or methanol.
Very good. Even though this is the IUPAC name, no one in real life ever calls it methanol. They always call it formaldehyde. I'm sure you've heard of formaldehyde even before you start taking this class, but you never heard of methanol. So this is the common name. As we discussed, form always means 1 carbon, like meth. All right. About this.
Carboxylic.
Good, so your name for that was? Good, so what you're remembering is the nomenclature for cyclic aldehydes is completely different from the nomenclature for straight chain. We have a whole new way. Straight chains are just named with the AL suffix. But here we have a whole new suffix, which is carbaldehyde. But you didn't say which carbaldehyde this is. That's just the general name for a cyclic aldehyde.
Isn't it? Oh.
After all,
Carbaldehyde.
what would be the difference between the name for this compound and this compound?
Cyclohexylcarbaldehyde.
Good. That's logical, except it turns out that this is actually called cyclohexane carbaldehyde. And that's usually written as one word, cyclohexane carbaldehyde.
And if it was a ketone, it would be cyclohexane.
That's separate. We'll get to that in a second.
Oxo. Yeah.
That's a separate issue that we get to in a second. Okay, and then the name for this would be?
Cyclopentane carbaldehyde.
Good. So there's a whole different way of naming cyclic aldehydes compared to straight chain aldehydes. Straight chain aldehydes, we just use the AL suffix. But cyclic aldehydes, we use the a huge carbaldehyde suffix. And we still need to name how many carbons are in the main chain. Okay, so those are all things that are likely to come up. All right, so now, let's name this. Great. 2-hydroxy butanal. Now, how did you know that, now it looks like both of you guys know that if there's a competition between an alcohol and an aldehyde, the aldehyde gets the suffix. By the way, the rule of thumb is, this usually works, it's usually the more oxidized group that gets the suffix if there's a competition. Well, this alcohol carbon has only one bond to oxygen, and the aldehyde carbon has 2 bonds to oxygen. So in general, if you haven't already memorized the relationship, usually it's the group that's more oxidized that gets the suffix. So we can't call this an alcohol, we call this hydroxy. A lot of people would forget that they need a locator number for the hydroxy. Why don't we need to say that this is 2-hydroxy-1-butanal? Why don't we need to say where the aldehyde?
It's given that that's number 1 because it's...
Yeah, aldehydes are always number 1. Otherwise they wouldn't be aldehydes, they'd be ketones. So you don't need to put in the number for the aldehyde, but we do need the number for the hydroxy. By the way, one thing you should have noticed is this is a stereocenter. So if I had drawn it with a wedge or a dash, you'd have to decide whether it's R or S. I didn't put in the wedge or the dash, so you can't put in the R or S. But you might see problems on the test where you have to do R and S.
We haven't seen any stereochemistry. Yeah.
None this term? Okay, so it looks like he doesn't care too much about R and S here? Okay,
awesome.
Good, right. So I didn't put that in here either. All right, very good. I think the stereochemistry will be coming eventually, but look, maybe they're not emphasizing it here. Okay, now, good. Let's give a name to this. Okay. Now, this had some stereochemistry that I'm pretty sure will be tested on the exam that it looks like you guys missed. What was the what extra thing do we have to add here? Sorry? E or trans. In this case, it would be permissible to say either E or trans because there's only one substituent on each carbon. So we could call this trans 2-butanal, or if you wanted to, you could call it E because they're on the opposite sides. Either would be logical here. Maybe it's safer to say E because that's always permissible. So we could also call it E2. All right, now this is something that's almost always tested in these courses, so you do need to watch out for this. It's very hard for people to remember to put in the cis and the trans here, so we have to watch out for that. I think it would have been a lot easier to think about that if I had drawn it like this. What would the name of this be?
Z. 2-butanal.
Yeah, it would be Z, 2-butanal. It's just that trans double bonds look so normal, we don't even realize they're trans. If you see a cis, that looks kind of weird, so then you would think about it. But it's hard to remember, so watch out for double bonds. You always have to decide whether there's a cis-trans or an EZ relationship for the double bond.